Yuru and his twin sister Asa were destined to rule all demons, but after their peasant village is massacred and Asa is murdered by a woman claiming to be his little sister, Yuru is cast out and hunted by assassins seeking to claim the twins' sacred powers. In a peasant village in the east, two twins were born separated by night and day, destined to command the Daemons one day. The older sibling Yuru became a skilled hunter, while his younger sister Asa was locked away in a cage to perform a sacred duty. After catching a pheasant, Yuru returned to the village and was greeted at the entrance by Danji. He wanted to go hunting with him in case he ran into trouble, but Yuru assured him the guardian of the left and right watched over him. Seeing the catch of the day, Danji suggested making roast pheasant, but Yuru suggested stew since it would feed more people. As they walked past the villagers, Yuru warned them about the coming rain. When they arrived, Danji's mother told him to come inside and do his chores, but the bummy boy ran off. Yuru entered the prison to greet his sister. Inside, Asa sat in a cage, and only a select few were allowed to see her. When Asa greeted him, Yuru told her he caught a pheasant today, but wished he could have caught a bear or boar instead. The fields had been dry all year, and the crops might die. If that happened, there wouldn't be enough food for the winter. Asa asked if he would go down the mountain to find work with the other adults, but he refused. Yuru had become a master hunter, so the village wouldn't send him away for work. His plan was to hunt enough meat to become invaluable to the village. When Asa asks him not to abandon her like their parents did, Yuru promises he'll always protect her. The villages linked to the outside world, Dara, came up the mountain carrying drugs and supplies for them. He informed them a nasty illness was spreading and announced he would purchase medicinal herbs for a premium. Yuru came out to greet him, and Dara tossed him a present for Asa while Yuru sold him the pheasant feathers. While the two tended to the cotton fields, Danji complained about wanting to leave the village like Dara and hated being a peasant. However, Yuru was happy living in the village for the rest of his life. They suddenly heard aircraft flying overhead and looked toward the dragon trails. Danji asked if he had ever seen a dragon up close, but Yuru never had. While Dara walked down the mountain, a mysterious power sent tremors through the area, destroying their barrier and revealing the entire village. The boys looked closer and saw an airplane, followed by multiple helicopters. All the peasants panicked, believing they were dragons. Suddenly, armed soldiers infiltrated the village and began massacring everyone in their path. They had come to capture Yuru, so the old hag ordered the men to bring him to her. The boys returned to a field of bodies, their loved ones gone in an instant. They encountered two soldiers who fired at Danji, but Yuru shot them down with arrows. As they ran past, they knocked the soldiers out with a powerful knee and kick to the jaw. They reached the village guardians and began digging beneath the statue. Yuru revealed a secret shortcut that led up to the keep. A young girl named Gabby jumped out of a helicopter and waved her hand. The moment she did, the men in front of her began imploding. She continued until everyone was dead except the children, refusing to kill them. Gabby then made a call to send in the ground troops. Meanwhile, Dara bodies multiple assassins and takes their guns. He calls a woman named Hana and changes their rendezvous point, then reveals he's certain Asa is here. A mysterious woman dragging the old hag enters Asa's prison. She raises her hand, calls her disgusting, and obliterates her forehead through the cell. Suddenly, Yuru runs in and calls out to Asa. When he sees the dead body, the woman claims to be his sister Asa and says she'll kill everyone in the village. Yuru is enraged and fires his arrow, but the woman moves too quickly and blows up the room. Dara realizes the soldiers disguised themselves as mountain rescue choppers to infiltrate the village. He jumps out and instantly pops two soldiers in the head. He makes his way out of sight but runs into Gabby. Dara compliments her disgusting foul teeth, but Gabby is impressed he was able to see her friend. It chases him around, but when he fires at Gabby, it protects her. Gabby realizes he killed their ground forces, but Dara suddenly throws a grenade at her and escapes while it blows up her facials. The gift Dara brought for Asa rolls onto her blood. The moment it touches it, a demon manifests and wraps around the woman's arm, briefly disarming her. The old hag wakes up and calls out to Dara, telling him to take Yuru and hide in the world below. The helicopters hover over the village searching for them. Dara and Yuru emerge from the statue's secret entrance, but Yuru is still in shock. Dara grabs him and tries to run, but the helicopters begin firing. Yuru panics, asking what's happening and why his sister had to die. Dara gives him a necklace containing an amulet shaped like the left and right, then tells him to plug it into the hole in the ground. When Yuru tries, he finds it filled with garbage because their village was filthy and disgusting. The sniper takes aim but can't shoot Yuru, then fires at Dara while Yuru takes his time. Once the hole is plugged, Dara smashes Yuru's face into the ground so his blood touches the amulet. The snipers aim again, but the statues begin glowing and blind them. Suddenly, two mysterious demons rise up, crush both helicopters, and send them crashing down. Gabby screams at the destruction while Dara grabs Yuru and escapes. Gabby complains about having to walk down the mountain like a lazy bum, then wonders whose daemons those were and hopes they weren't as powerful as they looked. Two monstrosities appear before them. Dara introduces them as Yuru's new daemons, the left and the right. Both daemons stated they had been watching Yuru since he was a child and would now lend him their powers. Dara warned that powerful people were nearby and requested they help them down the mountain as soon as possible. However, they called him a peasant and declared only their master could give them orders. Suddenly, Gabby appeared with her daemon Gabriel. She asked if the yellow-haired boy who looked like Edward Elric was Yuru, and when he confirmed it, she mentioned Asa's name, causing visions of her dead body and the villagers to flash through his mind. When Yuru asked if she massacred the villagers, the right noticed his rage and asked if he wanted him to kill her. However, Yuru denied his request. He ordered them to search for survivors and not lay a finger on her because he wanted to kill her himself. Other than that, they had permission to do as they pleased. The right was delighted to have such an easygoing master who willingly allowed him to murder people in his name. His bloodlust shook Gabby to her core. Meanwhile, the woman who claimed to be Asa threw the old hag into the wall, breaking her decrepit back. Before jumping out, she declared she would make her pay with her life. She ran past Danji and briefly turned back, but ignored him since he was only a lowly peasant. The right rushed at Gabby, distracting her while the left kicked her tooth daemon into the cliffside. Yuru shot an arrow through her leg and prepared another shot, but the monster grabbed her and escaped. Yuru chased after her, while Dara pulled the amulet from the ground. The right found the girl Gabby was reluctant to kill and woke her up. Remembering mortals couldn't see him, he revealed himself, causing her to faint from his disgusting, vile facial structure. He brought her into a house where the other children he scared into comas were resting. Asa came running by as he was leaving. She jumped down and sent a shockwave at him, but his roar instantly overpowered it. He claimed she had a dangerous power, but she escaped before he could finish. After taking a sniff, he recognized her scent. Meanwhile, Gabby barricaded herself inside with her tooth monster as her only defense against the monstrosity known as the left. Using her insane grip strength, she ripped its jaw open, but Yuru shot an arrow into her shoulder. Asa appeared and blasted the wall above the monster, causing it to collapse onto her. Yuru jumped above the rubble and demanded to know who they were. Asa once again claimed to be his little sister. Suddenly, the right appeared and demanded that families stop fighting amongst themselves. He informed Yuru that her blood smelled the same as his and confirmed she was his sister. Yuru couldn't believe it and demanded to know who had been in the cage all these years. It was an imposter. 10 years ago, their parents grabbed her and fled the village. Afterwards, the old hag feared Yuru would leave as well, so to keep him chained there, they implanted a fake Asa. Yuru thought about her words, but couldn't accept it. Dara disarmed him and explained they didn't know the full extent of the situation. There were survivors, and if they fought all out, they would die in the process. Yuru told Asa to leave the village alone, and he would allow Gabby to leave alive. She accepted, and they left. Gabby asked why they weren't capturing him, but was more worried about her wounds. Just knowing he was alive was enough for her, causing her eyes to tear up. As Dara and Yuru escaped, the old hag restored the barrier. They arrived at the rendezvous point with a woman named Hana, and the daemons noticed she was a seer. While they introduced Yuru and Hana, the daemons were stunned by modern world transportation. Dara asked the left and right if any daemons were nearby, but they confirmed the area was clear. He asked Yuru to hop in, but he was speechless. Dara tried explaining what it was, but Hana got inside and claimed there were magical horses inside that made it move fast. The three ignorant village peasants immediately understood. Dara explained to Hana that the village was attacked. He realized it must have been the Kagamori and that they now had his name and face as well. Suddenly, the left and right noticed they were being followed and warned the group. The left recognized it as a daemon they were familiar with. Oshira-sama arrived on a white stallion and greeted them. She mentioned it had been 400 years since they manifested and that mankind had come a long way. She asked if they had found a new master, and they pointed to the boy in the back beside the ugly man. He was one of the twins, separated by night and day. She smiled and requested to hear their stories when they returned. Dara and Hana's water fountains erupted when they realized who she was. Dara couldn't believe he was able to witness her majestic beauty during his pitiful life. Yuru asked what that thing was, and they both demanded he show her respect. Oshira-sama was basically a goddess. The left and right detected a slight disparity in treatment, since they were also the gods of the peasant village they had just left. Meanwhile, Asa and Gabby waited for their ride. Some orange jumpsuit men arrived to retrieve them. Jin ordered his slaves to prepare a stretcher for Gabby. He asked if they confirmed Yuru's existence, and they did. Gabby revealed he escaped with a Daemon retainer named Dara. When the men realized it was Tadara the retainer, they were pissed they didn't come more prepared. On the way down the mountain, Asa apologized for letting Yuru escape, but Ginny said it was fine, as long as they knew he was alive and off the mountain. Gabby admitted she only did it to save her since Yuru's daemons were that powerful. However, Yuru was just as ruthless, instantly immobilizing her and taking out her dominant shoulder. Hours later, they descended the mountain, and Yuru laid eyes on the city lights for the first time. Hana purchased Yuru some new drip so he wouldn't stand out. Dara handed him sandals, and Hana was impressed with his small-time Yakuza look. When Yuru saw the onigiri had real seaweed and salted rice, he thought it was a luxury. He asked how he was supposed to open it, and Hana snatched it, then peeled it open for him. After taking a bite, he wished Asa was there to enjoy it with him. The Right asked Dara what this place was, and he explained it was a convenience store where people traded money for items. He asked if they wanted to look inside, but they wanted to stay by Yuru's side. After eating, Dara suggested getting married to help Yuru blend in as their son, but Hana rejected the idea with brass knuckles as their wedding rings. She then screamed in front of everyone that she'd never marry a disgusting bum like him. Hana suggested saying she was Yuru's sister and had him as a teenager, making him the coolest single father ever. Dara imagined their neighbors spreading rumors that he was a woman beater, and that was why the mother left him. He suggested saying Yuru came from his first disastrous marriage, and he remarried her after so they could crack, but Hana couldn't agree and declared her buns belonged to Jason Statham. While the left and right tried sneaking a glimpse of the horses, Yuru jumped out and apologized for eating all the food, but they explained they didn't require food like humans. Yuru asked the left and right to tell him everything they knew about him and Asa. They knew no more than he did. They were stationed at the front of the village and only saw the people who came and went. At one point, villagers mentioned twins being born, but they only ever saw Yuru and assumed Asa died from illness shortly after birth. Until one night 10 years ago, they saw his parents fleeing in the middle of the night with Asa on their backs. She was small, but her blood smelled the same as his. Yuru thought his parents abandoned them both, but realized he was the only one left behind. He decided to find Asa and ask her for the truth. When Hana returned, she was furious to be his new guardian and requested he not catch any felonies. Dara mentioned they'd be on the road for a while and asked if he needed to take a leak, but he had already gone into the bushes, which pissed Hana off. Yuru asked about the Kagamori clan and if they had daemons of their own. Many of them were wielders. They were once allied with Higashi village, but now only lived down there. They were basically a branch family of Higashi village. They had ideological differences and couldn't get along. For a while, they heard rumors one of the twins was working with the Kagamoris, and it turned out to be true. Meanwhile, a woman was chased into an elevator by a stalker trying to diddle around, but she was actually a daemon in disguise, luring him in for the kill. While the man was being murdered, Jin called the woman and informed her the stalker wouldn't be giving her trouble anymore. Suddenly, the elevator opened to another woman who could see the daemon. As she trembled in fear, Jin asked her to keep it a secret. Dara informed him he had 2 orders: keep outsiders away from the village and make sure the twins never fell into enemy hands. Otherwise, he supplied drugs and relayed information. Hana did whatever odd jobs came her way because she was an incompetent bum. Dara thought it wasn't their place to question the village elders. As a Tadara, he simply followed orders like a sheep. Yuru asked what made them so special. The Right explained it could only happen on the day of the equinox. A twin boy and girl born separated by day and night. The world would be torn apart. The ones before them were born 400 years ago inside the same village. War split the country between east and west, and years before that, another war divided it into north and south. Daemon wielders controlled the outcome both times. Yuru asked if they were cursed to throw the world into chaos, but the Right explained those who sought their power would be the cause of it all. They were destined to claim ultimate power, and judging by what happened, Asa had already claimed hers. Break, the ability to forcibly unravel all things, could destroy even the strongest barriers. The other half of the power, Seal, had the ability to forcibly close all things. Hana asked what would happen if both powers collided, but the left explained there had never been a time when both powers were claimed simultaneously. Yuru had never noticed the barrier around the village, then asked Dara how he managed to enter and leave. He explained there was a specific route required to pass through the barrier, and the Tadara clan had been entrusted with it long ago. Yuru's mother was actually a hiker from the world below who got lost and found her way into the village. It brought back memories of his mother telling him as a child that she grew up in a faraway place and wanted to take him, his sister, and father there. The next day, after taking a dump, Yuru flushed the toilet and washed his hands. Afterwards, he proudly walked out since he finally learned how to potty. While walking around, the village peasants were amazed by the many castles built in town and thought it was impressive to have so many lords. The left was impressed by the city's population, and the right wanted to know how much rice they needed to farm to feed everyone. Yuru mentioned Dara and Hana had ties to the fake sister and the village, so he couldn't fully trust them. He couldn't completely trust Asa either. Slaying an entire village and a small child was not an easy decision to make, and there had to be a reason behind it. The plan was to find Asa and have her take him to their parents for answers. Yuru asked for their help, and the left stood up, then declared she wasn't the hunted, she was the hunter. When they get back, Dara gets a call, and Yuru asks what that was. Dara tries to explain, but says it was a smoke signal, and the village idiots believed him. They arrived at Hana's bummy apartment, and Yuru noticed the flooring was tatami. He couldn't believe his eyes since only Asa had it in the village. While Yuru expressed his poorness, her puppy and cat came over to smash his face. Hana introduced him to kotetsu and judo. Left and right entered and greeted them, then thanked them for giving their homeless master a home. Yuru was surprised rodents could be daemons, but they punched him in the gut and slashed his fingers. Right demanded that he show them respect and gratitude for housing him. Hana suggested using her last name since Dara had let his identity slip. Yuru asked if she was royalty since she had a last name, but she explained not everyone down here were peasants. Dara warned him not to be fooled since she owned a mountain. Yuru asked if she was a lord, but Hana explained it was a garbage mountain that wasn't maintained and couldn't even be sold. Meanwhile, Asa practiced her focus by targeting an apple but only caused an explosion. The master, Gonzu, arrived and greeted her with a get-better gift for Gabby. Asa offered Gabby a snack, but didn't have a knife to cut the apple. Jin called out to his disgusting fish, and it launched out a blade. Gabby thought it was revolting, since he had probably caught plenty of bodies with it. Gonzu ordered Asa to stay with Gabby while she healed. Now that both her and Yuru were off the mountain, word would spread, and they would both become targets. Even within the Kagamori clan, there were possibly people after her. He instructed Gin to continue searching for her peasant brother. However, Gin had no idea what he looked like. Gabby thought they should have taken a selfie during the massacre. Asa drew Sung Jin Woo, then Gabby presented her own Picasso painting. However, Gabriel somehow drew a better one than both of them. Gin decided he would start by searching for Tadera. Before leaving, Aksa came over with the tooth's drawing of Yuru's daemons. She explained they had keen noses and could identify her by her blood. Dara shaved his manly beard, since the Kagamori saw his face, but it wasn't blessed by the Riz god, and Hana wasn't letting him crack. Dara noticed Yuru was gone, but Hana explained he went for a walk. When he realized his machete was missing, Hana became outraged and declared she hated kids. To find Asa, Yuru concluded they needed to find a location that reeked of his blood and smelled of daemons. They both agreed, then powered up, grabbed Yuru, and flew into the skies. Gin approached with 2 slaves while talking on the phone. Wright mentioned they were all daemon users and had the fresh stench of Asa. When she suddenly appeared, visions of the dead imposter and the massacre flooded Yuru's mind. Yuru charged in while clutching Dara's blade, but it wasn't actually her, and he was too late. Gin's disgusting fish daemon captured Yuru inside its jaws. Gin explained he knew his daemons had a strong sense of smell, and since Yuru reacted to the fake Asa, he assumed he was the real one. Meanwhile, Hana and Dara wondered why Yuru still hadn't returned. They suddenly realized he was a miner and a village peasant with no health insurance, meaning they were responsible for any medical bills. Hana ordered Kotetsu to locate Yuru from his homeless stench and sent him off. She also had Judo somehow track him using an android. However, she was stunned when she discovered Left and Right had taken him all the way to Tokyo. Jin revealed they had set this trap for Higashi village in case they launched a counterattack. The men called out to Yuru's daemons and demanded they come out. Left noticed they were all unarmed, but Right sensed 4 other daemons besides the fishes. After stepping out, the men ordered them to stay where they were, but they continued advancing. Left warned Yuru not to move since the fish was holding him captive and couldn't engage them in combat. Gin was confused why the daemons were giving orders. Left reminded Right they were unarmed and told him to go easy. However, the blowfish spat out heavy artillery. They opened fire with Glocks and switches, but it had absolutely no effect. Akio tried a shotgun next, but they remained unfazed. Haruo pulled out a grenade launcher, thinking he was the Punisher, but that did no damage either. Right realized they were well armed and decided not to hold back. However, the blonde bum used his turtle daemon and anchored Left down with overwhelming weight. A rabbit grabbed onto Right's dirty rags, then knocked him out. It beat the crap out of him and kept jumping him until he begged Left for help. Unfortunately, she was busy squatting harder than Mike Tyson ever could. Yuru looked toward the slaves, then at the lights. He threw Dara's dagger at the turtle, freeing Left from its grip. She jumped up, dove down, and destroyed the fish Daemon's nasty teeth. Yuru escaped and grabbed Dara's blade as he screamed out to Right. He released a menacing roar that shattered every light in the garage. The rodent Daemon informed them the boys' daemons were moving farther and farther away. Gin thought they couldn't escape since Akio's daemons were blocking the exit, but suddenly remembered how proud Asa was of Yuru's hunting skills. He realized Yuru was still there. Gin jumped forward, but Yuru slashed his ankles and severed his Achilles tendon. He called out to his blowfish for a flashlight. When the lights came back on, they realized Yuru had taken their master hostage. Left and Right appeared behind the pillar, and Haruo criticized them for running. They replied that their master wasn't weak and pathetic like them. Yuru thought it was smarter to escape instead of all three of them getting captured and dying with blown-out backs. Jin sadly agreed. Right reminded them that out of the twins, Yuru commanded the night and darkness. It was his hunting grounds. Impressed, Haruo began glazing them for their incredible bond. Yuru asked if they were responsible for the attack on his village. Gin admitted he alone was responsible. Yuru thought about beheading him, but instead demanded he use his smoke signal to call Asa and arrange a meeting. Akio and Haruo are surprised he wasn't asking them to hand her over. Jin thought the Higashi village wanted both twins, but Yuru came alone. Jin suggests heading to the Kagamori Manor since Asa had been wanting to see him as well. However, Yuru has no plans on walking into a trap. Akio asks for a moment to patch Jin's wound, or he'll bleed out. Yuru made sure to cut shallow, but gave him permission anyway. Jin is shocked, but Yuru sensed no bloodlust from him during his first attack. If he did, he would have murdered him in cold blood. Haruo thinks mountain peasants cut off from the world are terrifying. Right notices the tortoise and bunny were with the blonde bum, concludes the disgusting fish was Jin's, and asks if the other pair they sensed belonged to Baldy. They ask if they weren't suited for battle, but Akio points out they're too big to fit. Jin couldn't bring Asa here, so he asks Yuru to come to the mansion and promises no harm would come to him. He reassures him he had no intention of killing him, so Yuru releases him. Meanwhile, Kotetsu locates the missing child. Before leaving, Jin orders his daemon, Aichan, to clean up the mess. It's a scavenger that cleans things up while Makoto can reproduce them. He feeds them various items daily, so he's always prepared for assassinations or terror attacks. Before leaving, Bunny Rabbit taunts Right, causing him to ask Yuru if he was skilled at hunting rabbits. Yuru claims they make delicious broth, causing Haruo to call them barbarians. A guard comes in asking about the noise, but they say the lights went out. The man thinks it's odd and tells them to take the stairs out. Moments later, Asa wakes up to a text and immediately starts pounding on Gabby's stomach. She asks if they were under attack, but Asa shows a text from Jin saying he was on the way with Yuru. Jin calls Gonzo and informs him he's on the way home with the other twin, Yuru. Gonzo is currently at the hot spring with ghosts, taking paranormal selfies, and says he'll head back immediately. They arrive at the Kagamori Manor. Once inside, they pass through a gate containing a barrier covering the property. Left and Right immediately sense the presence of multiple demons. Meanwhile, Gabriel informs Gabby that Jin and her brother have arrived. She excitedly asks if she wants to come with her, but Gabby has no plans on getting shot up again. Outside, Kotetsu arrives at the inner gate but can't proceed any further. Back home, Dara and Hana track Kotetsu. When they search the location, their hearts drop as they realize he was captured by the Kagamoris. Daddy decides to go pick up his adopted son. Once they reach the mansion, an ugly diddler-looking man named Asuma comes out to greet them. Jin thinks it's odd since he didn't inform him of their arrival, but he claims he had excellent hearing. He notices Jin is hurt, then compliments the menacing-looking demons. Asa comes running over and immediately asks for a hug, but he strictly declines. She apologizes since they weren't close anymore. Yuru didn't come to make friends, but had questions for her. Asa says she'll answer any questions, but requests a hug afterwards. Given Jin's pathetic condition, Asuma offers to give Yuru a tour, but Jin declines, saying he was his and Asa's guest. While watching the diddler, Jin orders Akio to stand guard outside the barrier and instructs Yuru to stay close during his stay. During treatment, Sakurazawa couldn't believe Yuru gave him that wound with a machete. Jin mentions teenage boys don't usually carry machetes, but Yuru says they should, and when Asa agrees, Haru thinks they're savages. Jin pulls out a vial of Asa's blood and returns it to the clinic. Yuru calls him a fiend for drawing blood from a young woman, but Asa says it was her idea. Haruo realizes he was okay with murdering someone, but not drawing blood, and thinks he's crazy. Asa walks up and casually asks if she could hug him now, but he absolutely refuses rises again. He thought she was gigantic compared to his cute little Asa. She claims the food down there was better and says if he ate enough, he'd grow more than Edward Elric. However, he thought it was too salty and had too much seasoning. Suddenly, Yuru steps forward and asks where their mother and father are. She reluctantly responds and says they went missing. Asa asks Jin to explain everything, saying she didn't want to hide anything from him. After escaping the village and settling into their new lives, they decided to visit their mother's home. She was from Okinawa, a small island south of the mainland. They would have to take a boat or an airplane. Yuru asks what an airplane is, and she explains it's what they call dragons in the village. It was able to hold up to 150 passengers. Her family thought she had gone missing in the mountains, so she wanted to return. They left her with the Kagamoris and boarded a plane. Apparently, they disappeared mid-flight. They definitely boarded in Tokyo, but weren't on the plane when it arrived. A reliable Kagamori Daemon wielder accompanied them, but disappeared too. He could have been a spy from Higashi village, but they don't know. When Jin apologizes for their mistake, Yuru demands to know why she trusted them after what happened. However, she explains dozens of assassins from the village targeted them after escaping. It was the master of the Kagamori and Jin's people that gave her a home and protection. They had her full trust. Meanwhile, 5 mysterious beings planned to attack the manor now that Gabby was immobilized. Jin was injured, and the master wasn't present. They planned to kill Yuru and take Asa's head with them. Suddenly, left and right feel their presence. Left opens the curtains and 2 daemons burst in. Gabriel wakes Gabby to 2 intruders watching her sleep. While running, Yuru accuses Jin of leading them into a trap, but he claims those demons aren't theirs. Jin asks left and right not to kill them and their masters if possible so they can interrogate them. The doctor asks that if they do kill them, make sure to do it properly so she wouldn't have to treat them. Upon hearing this, Yuru says he was going to, but he'll try not. Haruo thought he was a serial killer for even thinking that, but Asa thinks he's a saint. When he asks Jin for a bow and arrow, Makoto spits out a bunch of medieval junk. Yuru arms himself and readies an arrow. He fires the arrow, but it flies past and misses terribly. Left kicks down the wall and they rush into the next room. Jin gets a call from Gabby and says he's got limited mobility. She grows tired of his excuses and demands he protect Asa. When she hears Yuru and his demons are there, she decides they'll be fine and asks for permission to slaughter the demons. Jin gives the green light and they instantly behead the abomination. She then orders Gabriel to slaughter the other with extreme bloodlust in her eyes. Afterwards, she steps outside, smiles at the demons surrounding her, and proceeds to massacre the rest. Asa apologizes to Jin in case she damages the mansion, but he says he'll take responsibility. Haruo apologizes too, but says he'll accept his punishment. When Asa asks Yuru to distract one, they turn to confront them, but the demons merge together, and all 4 of them vanish. The demon immediately tries to retreat, but Haruo summons the tortoise and blows out its back. He notices its power and realizes it may have something to do with Asa's parents disappearing. Bunny Rabbit warns them demons are approaching from every side, so Haruo leaves them to Jin. Makoto spits out a Glock with a switch, and Jin gets to work. Meanwhile, Asa finds herself trapped in a black void. She calls out to everyone but gets no response. Realizing she's alone, she's reminded of her cage and starts trembling. Wright suddenly sneaks up and freaks her out. He smells an unpleasant sweat and asks if she's afraid of the dark. When she admits she's afraid of being alone, Wright pats her head and tells her not to worry. She suddenly scolds him for not following Yuru, but he thinks he'll be fine since Left is with him. He followed her because he wanted to talk. When they first met, she attacked him and hasn't spoken a word to him since arriving at the manor. He confronts her about knowing he's her natural enemy. When he neutralized Break, she remembered her father explaining that Right and Left could keep Break and Seal from going out of control. That meant Left was Yuru's natural enemy, while Right was hers. Happy she understood, he formally introduces himself. Left lands beside Yuru and startles him as well. While flying, she spots a ceiling and realizes they're trapped inside a spherical barrier created by those demons. Since she doesn't smell any nearby threats, Yuru asks her to help adjust his aim. Left notices the situation doesn't seem to bother him. However, he's been troubled ever since the village massacre and simply got used to it. She feels extreme sympathy for him. Yuru walks forward, fires an arrow and headshots her. He tells her to at least dodge, but she doesn't want to walk to pick up the arrows. He headshots her again and apologizes, thinking something was wrong with the arrows. Left asks if he's worried about Asa, but believes she should escape using Break. Torty suddenly gets off, and Asa appears with Right. She immediately breaks the demon's contract with its master, and it collapses. The doctor hands her the vial, apologizes for it being old, and splashes it on. After claiming to be its new master, it jumps in for a snuggle, but she asks for her brother back instead. Once they're spat out, Yuru and Left immediately move to kill the Daemon, but Asa stops them, saying it's on their side now. now. Since it could make people vanish, they wanted to capture its master and question him about their parents. With the eyes of a killer, Asa asks where its previous master is. When it immediately snitches, Haru thinks she's terrifying for making it give him up so easily. It smashes through a wall and points him out. The man can't believe such an overpowered ability snitched that fast. Asa says it's too dark to see since she was a pirate, but Yuru instantly shoots the man down and orders right after him. Upon seeing this, Asa got wet. The regulars ask Jin what's going on, but he simply apologizes while catching 2 more bodies. Men wait in the dark to ambush Jin, but Makoto pops out and spits a grenade into their faces. Another sends his demons after him, but Aichan devours them before Jin shoots him in the head. Gabby reports killing 5 groups of wimps, but didn't recognize any of them. Suddenly, a bum is dropped by an arrow. Jin Mr. Floyds him, but notices the arrow and wonders if it's Yuru. Gabby wonders where he's shooting from, while Yuru Aura farms in the darkness. Meanwhile, a wannabe Zoro is shook by Yuru's terrifying precision and decides to retreat. The final intruder tries to escape, but Akio's Daemon blocks the exit. Akio walks over and obliterates his skull with his red rod. By morning, the manor looks like a war zone. Jin apologizes for the trouble. Gabby walks over, but Yuru immediately gives her a death glare. They instantly get at each other's throats until Asa tells them to calm down. Meanwhile, Wright has fun with the shrimps. Jin decides to wait for the master to return before deciding what to do with the captured intruders. For now, they'll interrogate them. One man says they were offered a fortune to capture the twins, but knew nothing else. Haruo tortures him using Torty as an anchor. He asks which group hired him and whether a Kagomori was behind it, but the man insists he knows nothing. It was a one-time job, and everyone met for the first time tonight. The organizer had a beard and wore a camouflage jacket. Akio suddenly confesses he already murdered someone matching that description at the front gate. Jin asks if he knows where the married couple that fled Higashi village 10 years ago went. Yuru demands answers. When the man says he knows nothing, Yuru turns to the others, but they all whisper they don't either. Realizing they have no leads, Asa apologizes to Yuru. She then asks for the demons' names, but he says he never named them. He just calls them Hey You and Livestock. Outraged, Gabby orders Gabriel to crush his head, but Asa stops her, and she storms off. Bunny Rabbit tells him demons have feelings too, and they weren't surprised they gave him up so easily. They snuggle up to Asa, and when she asks if they can become smaller, they transform into little fur balls. Yuru asks if the assassins have always been like this since she left the village. Asa says they have, but this is unusual, and thanks him for coming. When he asks if they took her right eye, she reveals she had died before and was killed by a Higashi village assassin. In the past, just before his parents disappeared, Yuru's father took him into the mountains to hunt, but he was the one being hunted. Thinking it was just a bandit, Yuru stabbed the man in the gut. At that moment, Mine appeared and shot an arrow through his neck. Mine ran over, saw the blood, and told Yuru to remember this feeling because it was another man's bloodlust. He warns he'll experience it again and again for as long as he lives, and whenever he feels it, he must never hesitate to take the other person's life. After disposing of the body, Mine tells Yuru they'll spend the night in the mountains and return in the morning to give him time to calm down. That night, Mine instructs Yuru not to tell the villagers about the incident. Yuru thinks he should since the bandits' allies might attack, but Mine is certain they won't target the village. When they return, Yuru is to act as if nothing happened. The next morning, the villagers are surprised they spent the night outside, yet returned empty-handed. At the village center, old hag Yamaha says they were worried when they never came back. She asks if something happened, but Mine reassures her everything is fine. They simply chased their prey too far and decided to camp overnight. When she notices his injury, Mine quickly claims it came from the rat they ate for dinner. After dismissing the old hag, they enter the keep to greet Asa and Nagisa. Mine apologizes for staying out so long and explains they wandered too deep into the mountains. Asa asks if they're all right, and Yuru reassures her they made it home safely. While Asa happily talks with Yuru, Mine quietly whispers the truth into Nagisa's ear. The children notice their mother's expression and their father walking away. Shortly after, they leave the village without him and Asa. In reality, only Yuru was left behind, and the girl he'd lived with for the past 10 years was an imposter. The entire village had been lying to him all along. After escaping the village and evading their pursuers, the Kagomori clan took Asa and their parents in. They believed their lives had finally settled down, but soon after, both parents disappeared. Then, when Asa was 15, an assassin captured and killed her, awakening the power of Break. After her death, Asa awakens in a dark void along a trail of skulls. Break is the power of the Daemon that resides on the boundary between the living world and the land of the dead. When it explains she has already died, Asa asks if this is hell. It thinks that's a reasonable assumption, but asks why she believes she'd end up there. It floats to the sacred tree, searches through its books, and finds one identifying this place as Yomotsu Hirasaka in her world. world. Hearing that, Asa remembers her father's story about the twins born before and after daybreak, on the day when night and day are equal, destined to travel to the Shadow Realm and command all Daemons. It presents Asa with two choices: remain dead and move on, or accept break and return to the living. If she wishes to die, she only has to step off the path. If she chooses life, she'll gain a convenient power capable of taking an enemy commander's head from across the battlefield, ending wars alone. However, those seeking to exploit her power would constantly gather around her. She may live through hell and eventually wish for death herself. After losing both parents and being hunted by assassins, Asa believes hell has already begun. She suddenly remembers Yuru and asks if he has already died, but the Daemon doesn't know. When he does die, he'll go to where Seal is. Asa collapses to her knees, but declares she can't die until she finds and saves her brother. It asks which path she'll choose. When Asa looks up, it says it likes the color of her eyes and tells her never to look back. After killing Asa, the assassins question whether she was a fake planted by the Kagomori, since she never came back to life. The woman insists it had to be the real Asa because she personally saw her in the village. The man rages that they'll never obtain the power of break. The woman says the boy remained in the village under their control, and Seal was more than capable of ruling the underworld. Moments later, Asa awakens, breaks free, and obliterates their ugly faces. Meanwhile, Gabriel senses Asa and leads Gabby straight to her. When Gabby arrives, she says it's a shame because killing lowlifes like them was supposed to be her job. However, Asa accepts her cursed fate as one of the twins separated by night and day. She apologizes to Yuru because the innocent little sister he's searching for died that day. Gabby later returns to her room, finds the Daemons she killed, and decides to dig graves for them. Later in the morning, a lunatic bum starts yelling outside the front gate asking if anyone's home. Akio answers and is greeted by Dara. He calls Jin, who asks Yuru what he wants to do. Remembering Dara's comments about the Kagomori, but also Asa's complete trust in them, Yuru decides he wants to hear both sides. When he asks Jin to let Dara in, Jin tells Akio to escort him inside and reminds him not to murder anyone this time. Moments later, Asuma asks if they had guests last night, but Jin calls him out for having excellent hearing, yet never coming out to help. Hagur emerges asking if there was an earthquake. Asuma explains the manor was attacked because the twins were there. Hagur realizes Asa found her brother and is genuinely happy for her. But when he introduces himself, he's greeted by 3 stone-cold killers. Asa introduces them as Yuru's Daemons, right and left. Hagur apologizes to Jin for not helping since he passed out trying to meet his deadline. Jin congratulates him on finishing it and says they'll continue torturing the prisoners for more information. Outside, the master's car finally arrives. After Gonzu steps out, the bummy Unk follows behind and greets everyone. When Jin asks who he is, Gonzu explains he's Yuru's guardian. The geezer introduces himself to Yuru and compliments his Daemons. Jin finds it strange since the Tadera clan had always been cautious and never revealed themselves before. Wright wonders if they're in cahoots, but Yuru doesn't think so. He could sense both the old man and Jin genuinely wanted to kill Dara. Yuru immediately asks if Dara knew he would inherit Seal if he died, then asks right and left the same. Dara admits he knew, but not the details. Yuru was simply a kind and caring brother. If someone harmed Asa and used her to blackmail him, he'd throw his own life away. Knowing he could die once without consequence made reckless decisions easier, though there was never any guarantee he'd return. They were the first twins born in 400 years, and one of the previous pairs never came back. Gonzu decides this is a conversation better suited for breakfast and calls for the slaves to prepare a feast. He reassures Dara he won't poison him before laughing it off, while the bum thanks him for the meal, and Asa eagerly looks forward to eating with Yuru. Once inside, Hagur fixes up the horror film set with his Daemons. With a flick of his wrist, one Daemon paints over the mess while the other adds color and texture. The peasants are so amazed, they drop to their knees and start glazing his artistic glizzy. Hagure introduces his Daemons, Blackie and Whiteout. He applies Whiteout to anything he wants to fix and writes over it with the ink. He reveals himself as Hagure Hikaru, a mangaka. Yuru doesn't even know what H-anime is. Dara remembers seeing him credited in films as an original creator. Apparently, he uses a pen name since their family specializes in terror attacks, and his real name is Hikaru Kagomori. The 3 musketeers were brothers. Jin was the youngest, the diddler was the middle, and Hikaru was the oldest. Hikaru reveals they have different mothers since Gonzo was getting unlimited buns in the streets. During breakfast, Jin asks Dara how he knew Yuru was here, but Dara wasn't telling. He then asks if he knew about the Daemon attack the night before, but he didn't have a clue. While they discuss the invasion, Asa admires the way Yuru eats and is mesmerized. Dara suddenly asks Asa if the Kagomori have been treating her properly. She coldly responds that they've fed her and raised her well. The The mansion was safe, and she hadn't been attacked there until last night. Gabby thinks the moment Asa steps outside, she's surrounded by enemies. Sakurazawa doesn't want her to leave the property, but when the clinic is insufficient, she has to visit a local hospital. The security there was practically nothing, and Higashi village assassins captured her during her stay. When Dara asks if she was ill, Asa reveals she had a gastric ulcer. The stress from constantly being attacked by village agents put a hole in her stomach. Dara apologizes out of fear. He changes the subject and asks about her family register. It's a pain to use hospitals without insurance, and he wonders what to do about Yuru. She explains she tried getting one through her parents but reveals they were attacked and went missing. When Dara asks Yuru, he confirms it. He immediately pleads his case, claiming he knew nothing about it and defended the people he had ties to. Ganzu doesn't believe him at all. Dara, however, says he would kill anyone who entered their territory but would never attack anyone. He never agreed with the Higashi village extremists either. He came unarmed and peacefully to retrieve Yuru, then asks if they're sure it wasn't a Kagomori extremist. Their organization wasn't exactly saints either. He then asks Ganzu what they ultimately wanted from the twins. Ganzu believes they're better off without them, and wants Asa and Yuru to be the last set. He wants to annihilate the village that produces them. It's a miserable village bound by outdated values that can't give up its dream of conquering the world. Since they share blood, it's their responsibility to put them to rest. Asuma disagrees and thinks those with power should use it to peacefully govern the world. They should be allowed to exist, but under a suitable organization to handle its affairs. Yuru remembers Right and Left's answer when he asked if they were cursed. It made him feel like it was okay for them to live, and he thanked them as he ate the last grain of rice. He asks Dara to relay a message to the Higashi village and anyone else looking for them. He declares war on anyone who wants his head and dares them to come for it. However, once he defeats them, he'll torture them for every bit of information he can get. Asa immediately calls him a fool. He's only saying that because he hasn't been hunted down by assassins. She doesn't want him to suffer the same fate she did. Hikaru asks if Yuru is the type to attack relentlessly, and Jin confirms it. Asa asks Right and Left to say something, but they're excited to catch some bodies for the young master, leaving her disappointed. Gabby thinks it isn't an issue since her brother is offering to carry half her burden. Right thinks he's a generous man, but Asa already knew, making them feel extreme guilt. Ganzu asks if joining the Kagomori wasn't an option. He'd be safe and comfortable there, but Yuru declines since the old man called the village miserable. He understands his ideals but doesn't accept them. He'd never side with someone who massacred his loved ones. He appreciates them looking for his parents but plans to search for them on his own with Dara. Upon hearing this, Asa bows to Right and Left and requests that they keep Yuru safe. Together, the three of them accept her request. At the gate, Yuru realizes Asa is still imprisoned, just with a larger cell. Before they leave, Asa pulls out a smartphone and presents a selfie of their parents to the village peasants. They think it's a realistic woodblock print. She takes a selfie with him next, and he's astonished. She successfully takes advantage of his ignorance and gets the photo. He doesn't understand it, but is impressed. The others want a selfie too, but when she snaps it, she purposely leaves Dara cropped out and the Daemons don't even appear. She offers to print out the photo of their parents and send it to him, then asks for his address. But the village idiot have never even seen a map, leaving Asa disappointed she couldn't take advantage of this situation. She asks Dara next, but he has no plans on revealing that to an enemy. Jin asks for at least a number or email to notify Yuru of any updates about his parents, but Dara declines. Jin then passes Dara a card for a strip club and tells him to make contact there if he needs anything. However, Dara claims he was going to pop bottles and get dances on his tab. Before leaving, Asa calls out and tells Yuru their parents were heartbroken they couldn't take him with them. Granny Yamaha got in their way, and all they could do was escape with her. Once he hears this, he starts tearing up. He says just hearing that made it worth coming here, then says goodbye. Suddenly, Asa runs out of the barrier and hugs him for the first time in their lives. She tells him to take care of himself, then runs back in with a smile. After feeling her touch his back, he collapses and realizes she was truly his Asa. After leaving the Kagomoris, Dara decides to show the village idiots around the city. He takes them on a boat ride, and they're as shocked as ever. At the station, Yuru thinks the trains run on magic fuel. He even takes them to place bets on horse races, but loses his $50 budget. After blowing his life savings, Yuru thinks he needs arrows since he only has a bow at Dara's place. However, Dara has no idea where to buy them, but Yuru says he can craft them with the proper materials. Later, Dara brings him to a home depot where he's shocked once again by the many things for sale. He asks if they sell whole deer so he can boil the skin and organs to make glue. Dara thinks he's a disgrace to humanity and picks out super glue instead. While checking out, the clerk had the spiritual pressure of Ichigo Kurosaki and was able to see the Daemons. She asks for a break, but the manager starts whipping her back to work. Dara tells him to pick out what he likes, and he chooses black because it's easier to hide bloodstains, terrifying Dara. Yuru looks over at the boxers but declines. Dara asks if they have loincloths, but they don't cater to filthy villagers. Yuru is reminded of one of the bandits that attacked him when he was younger. Just like his his father taught him, whenever he felt bloodlust, he killed first in response. Every time he disposed of the bodies, something always felt off. Now he realizes what it was. They weren't young and their hands were clean. Where he came from, labor was harsh, and after a certain age, dirt settled into the skin. All the assassins were hired from down here and sent above. If he was killed by a villager he knew and acquired Seal, he'd lose all trust. They'd make him believe he gained the power of Seal after an outsider killed him, making their hold on him even stronger. He wasn't sure if they were responsible, but he couldn't trust them anymore either. Only a few people knew the way in and out of Higashi village's barrier, including Dara, narrowing the list down. Yuru wanted to lay a trap. Suddenly, Yuru informs Dara they're being followed by 3 people. Meanwhile, Asa drools over the selfie of Yuru, but is disgusted by Dara's ugly face. When she photoshops him out, Jin comes over and asks for the photo of Dara, but she claims he wasn't in the frame at all, and walks away. Jin orders Haruo to search the security cameras for photos of him, but Asa requests any photos of Yuru. Elsewhere in the mansion, Kenichi and Makoto plead their innocence and show their call logs, revealing the camo jacket man Akio murdered contacted them both around midnight for the job. None of them met each other before the mission. Midnight was when they finished fighting Yuru and headed back, which was also around the time Asa received Jin's text. They entered the manor between 1:30 and 2 a.m., around the time they checked into the infirmary. At that time, the barrier should have been active, meaning they could only enter with someone from the family. Makoto points out they entered through the west gate, which was unsupervised. However, Jin and Gonzu both claim they don't have a west gate. Gonzu orders Fuyuki to inspect her daemons. Using its power, his daemon begins exposing her, but he covers its mouth before opening it and reading through. He grabs Asa's stolen pair next. After examining them, he reveals they were both telling the truth. His daemon has the ability to extract information about a daemon's master. After learning they were unemployed, Gonzu offers them jobs with the clan and plans on making them slaves. He offers to pay for her mother's hospital bills and tells her not to worry. However, when Kenichi asks about his gambling debt, Gonzu gives him a pink eye with his athlete's foot. Afterward, Gonzu orders them to find the mastermind, then kill him and everyone associated. During cleaning, Kenichi asks Asa if he can have his daemons back. With a glare, she asks if he has names for them yet, but he named them after sweet desserts. Jin never thought such peaceful names would come from a gambling degenerate. After being roasted, Kenichi demands to know the teeth's names. The upper jaw is Joe William Frederick Gabriel I, and the lower jaw is Kirk Douglas Aldglaive Gabriel II. When he disrespects the names, the daemon immediately tries to behead him. Asa asks if they want the cute names he gave them, but they're disgusted with him. Gabby asks if Break has any issues with them, but there are no problems so far. She thinks she should keep them since having more eyes watching her back is better. After getting new drip, they leave the store while still being followed. Yuru apologizes for taking his machete and leaving it at the Kagamori's, but Dara is just glad he won't be able to catch bodies in the city. He suggests stopping by his safe house for weapons. Right and Left ask if he's sure since they're still being followed, but Dara reassures them he has no plans on keeping the location. Once inside the safe house, they find an armory filled with heavy artillery hidden by the Taderas. After arming themselves, Right senses daemons outside. When the stalkers approach, the old hag suggests retreating for now, but the pair suddenly appears behind them. They pull out pistols, but Dara shoots them out of their hands while the daemons pin down the others. The man starts running, but suddenly enters a mysterious fog and is transported elsewhere. It was the Tadara clan's lost house, where a thin layer of fog separated it from the real world, and only he knew the way out. One wrong turn, and he'd run in circles until he died. Many Kagamori agents had carelessly followed and never escaped. Right still senses daemons, but Dara explains the Tadara clan's daemons were stored in that armory. However, Right and Left sense another pair. The man's head is suddenly taken off. A grotesque diddler emerges from the canal. The other assailant receives an intense backshot and is wiped out by the other daemon. When they greet Right and Left, she drops the old hag and tells Dara to stand back with Yuru. They're Tenaga Ashinaga, a vile creature from centuries ago. Moments later, the old hag falls asleep from fear, causing Dara to pistol whip her with the op stopper. They realize they aren't her daemons, meaning there was a third party inside the space. Over 1,000 years ago, they caused trouble up north, so Right and Left fought alongside a traveling monk with the power of seal to seal them inside Mount Yamu. Right asks how they were freed, and they explain a nice master appeared and dispelled the seal the other day. Now that they're free, they want revenge. Dara mentions a legend claiming they could cause floods by scattering lake water they scooped up with their arms. The pair thinks that's absurd and curses the village peasants for making up lies. They only ate a bunch of humans and loved the taste of children, then notice one right in front of them. They ask right and left who their current master is and if the twins were born. Daemon sees Yuru preparing to fight and suddenly commands right and left into battle. Right immediately calls him a bum, but notices left's cold stare and realizes what he's doing. They immediately target them and say they'll eat the kid later. Left steps in and kicks them away. Right stops the attack, then drags him down, but it slams his face into the pavement and pulverizes him. Left starts throwing hands, but they keep squirming around and blow her away. While Right is getting bodied, Daemon starts shooting at them like O-block savages. When he launches Right over, Daemon barely dodges and the barrel of his gun is taken off. They approach for the kill, but Right tackles them away. When Daemon makes it over to Yuru, Yuru asks why he lied about being Right and Left's master. Daemon claims to be his guardian and says his adorable one-eyed sister asked him to. Yuru thinks he can fight as well, but the old hag thinks he's mad since they're Tenaga and Ashinaga. Yuru immediately holds the blade to her throat. Daemon asks if she's with Higashi or the Kagamoris and demands an answer. When she responds with Kagamori, Yuru asks which one since they're all different. She reluctantly answers Asuma. Yuru remembers Asuma's words during breakfast while a butterfly Daemon spies on them for the diddler. She was told to follow and not harm them, but was pissed she was dragged into a Daemon feud. Daemon asks if she brought her Daemons, but she didn't bring them on the stalker mission since Right and Left would have sensed them. Daemon calls her a useless wench. She asks if they could just leave them in the lost house, but Daemon thinks it's an issue if the Daemon and its master know how to get in and out. Yuru offers to hunt down their master since he doesn't have their attention. When Daemon orders the hag to accompany Yuru, she pulls out prison shanks and claims she needs to get home to cook dinner for her husband. Moments later, Daemon makes it to the armory, but is suddenly ambushed by a diddler's arms. It tries to take off his head, but he continues to evade. As he runs, Right lands in its arms, but it immobilizes him and swings him away. When Daemon gets back up, he sees a hole in the armor and goes in. While looking for Tenaga and Ashinaga's master, all Yuru and the old hag find are corpses. Meanwhile, Right and Left are completely ensnared in the diddler arms. However, one of their brains gets blown apart like John F.K. Apparently, Daemon sniped them from 150 meters away. Since they've been sealed for over 1,000 years, they had no idea what modern warfare was like. He puts another bullet through its skull and takes out one of their legs. Once they're free, Right and Left get a hold of them and toss them into each other like unwanted orphan children. Since one is now legally blind, they climb on top of each other. They suddenly pick the old hag out of the tree and plan to eat her to heal their wounds. Before tragically dying, the old hag snitches and says the boy she was with is the twin that will inherit Seal. They all want to kill her. However, they squish her head and claim they still need the nutrients from her decrepit body. Suddenly, an axe flies in, lands a hit, and releases her. Yuru boldly introduces himself as one of the twins and Right and Left's master. They remember she said he will inherit Seal, meaning he hasn't gained the power yet. They come to a dilemma. If they kill the kid, he'll awaken Seal, and they'll be imprisoned again. Yuru suddenly orders Right and Left not to move until he says so, saying this is his job. They start targeting Yuru, but he easily evades and runs away. They notice the dogs are actually obeying and chase after him. He gets behind a tree, but they smash through it, pick up the skull, and launch it at the sniper. They pick up a massive tree and slam it down on Yuru. Right calls out to him, but his back is destroyed. When Tenaga Ashinaga stands over him, he awakens and activates Seal. They immediately freeze and wonder how it's possible. They realize the bum unk lied and wonder if they lied about not having Seal as well. However, Yuru orders Right and Left to move in for the kill, and they surround them in their demonic forms. They tear him apart, claiming they'll pay for harming their master. After Longarm flies into the canal, Left anchors down in her statue form. He begs Longlegs for help, but Right stops him, and Daemon puts a bullet in his gag reflex. After the battle, Left gets out of the water, and Longlegs turns back into its pitiful relic form. Right pats Yuru on the back and compliments his plan. Since Asa's break involved opening and closing her hand, he figured Seal was the opposite. Left suddenly snatches the butterfly, realizing it was the Daemon they sensed since leaving the Kagamoris. The hag explains it's Asuma's Daemon. It's a small part of a larger entity, so killing it won't harm it. When Asuma sensed they killed their spy, Asagiri thought it was fine since they now knew how to retrieve the bodies of their dead. While Yuru was running around, he noticed Tenaga Ashinaga's attack stopped whenever he came around this side of the hut. Their master was underneath there, and he demanded they come out. When he asked if they were going to kill him, Daemon realized he was a kid, but Yuru said it depended on what he had to say. She thought he was ruthless. After coming out, he admitted he was the master, and his name was Ken Tadera. He had heard this was his father's house. Yuru immediately pointed at the deadbeat and asked if he really left for milk and never returned. Daemon claimed he didn't remember him at all. He asked what his mother's name was, but Ken said Abeva Tesfaye, an exotic Ethiopian. Dara realized he never even tasted chocolate milk and said they were definitely strangers. However, Ken's father told him all about Dara. He called him by name and revealed his father was Roe to Dara. Dara realized he was his half-little brother and asked his age. Ken was 13, making them 22 years apart. The village morons congratulated him, and Yuru thought it was a blessing, but Dara saw it as another mouth to feed. Ken overheard he was the Higashi twin and said his father told him about his parents as well. Apparently, their father was the one who taught them how to escape the village barrier. Dara was shocked, since he never told him. Yuru immediately held the blade up and demanded to know where his parents were, but Ken apologized. The old hag questioned why the village never considered the Tadaras were Kagomori spies. She asked if they were going to put her 6 feet under, but Dara thought it would be a hassle since Asuma already knew the way in. He asked Yuru if he wanted to kill her since she gave him up during the battle, but he didn't think it was necessary since she was an ancient relic. Before leaving, she requested to bury the men that came with her since they had no families to hold funerals. When Yuru offered to help, she thought he was strange since he casually talked about killing but helped his enemies bury their dead. Meanwhile, Ken called Dara brother, but he told him to call him Ryu. Ken thanked him for taking down Tanaga Ashinaga. Yuru asked how to peacefully dissolve a daemon's contract if the master hadn't died. Dara explained everyone involved had to come to an agreement. They called themselves masters because it was convenient, but they were actually equals. After hearing that, Yuru remembered Bunny Rabbit's words that daemons had feelings too. If he wanted, right and left would return to the entrance of Higashi village. They'd be disappointed since they were now free to move around and wanted to enjoy the outside world after 400 years. They immediately scolded the boy and warned him never to release strange daemons again. They weren't executing him because he was Dara's long-lost stepbrother. When Dara gave her the boot, she turned around, sighed, and said she was retiring. Afterwards, he returned to interrogate Ken, but he claimed he didn't know where Yuru's parents were. He didn't even know where their father was. Dara didn't know either. Apparently, their father visited his mother often to crack but disappeared one day. A few days ago, his mother died and he couldn't contact him. Alone, he decided to get stronger. He discovered Tanaga Ashinaga's seal and formed a contract with them. They couldn't harm him but didn't listen to him, so he trapped them inside the lost house. Hours later, they finally returned, and Hana was worried sick. Yuru realized she was genuinely concerned, but she was only relieved there wasn't an unexpected medical bill. Hana was surprised he returned in one piece, but suddenly spotted the strip club business card he dropped. She saw he was gambling and getting exotic dances. Suddenly, Ken Tadara introduced himself and said he'd be staying with them. When she realized he had a secret child, she asked how much money he had. She was calculating what she'd get in a divorce. However, he only had some land and a house, but it had a daemon occupying it, meaning she acquired a daemon that incurred property tax. Her fellow retainer forced her into a marriage where he came with a child, heavy baggage, womanizing, gambling, worthless real estate, and a secret kid. She was furious. They explained he used right and left to search for his parents, but found Asa instead. He ended up at the Kagomori mansion and fought off an attempted kidnapping from a third party. After settling with the Kagomori master, they went womanizing and gambling, then picked up an unwanted orphan child. Dara denied the womanizing and secret child, but not losing his money on a parlay. They asked if Ken could stay with them, but she immediately declined and repeated that she hated kids. Yuru thought he could be their village slave, but she said they couldn't put a child to work. She didn't think he was on their side, but Yuru reassured her he didn't have a shred of bloodlust. Suddenly, she grabbed him in a headlock and called him too trusting. Dara told her domestic violence wasn't allowed, and she immediately let go, making Ken wet his undies. He wondered if everyone related to Higashi village was a psychopath, but nobody normal would associate with the village. Ken handed over a passbook and said they could use it to cover expenses. However, it needed updating, so she tasked Dara with doing it. When he returned, Dara immediately suggested adopting Ken as their son. After seeing the millions of yen deposited every month, she welcomed him into the family. Dara noticed the deposits were recent and informed everyone their father was still alive. After dinner,
"How can they afford to let me use this much water all by myself? I feel like I'm doing something wrong."
at night, Yuru told Ken he hoped they'd find his father soon. Ken started tearing up and said the same about his parents. Outside, Dara drank for Ken's mother with her urn on the table. Hannah offered to make a grave for her on her mountain if Ken allowed it. When he thanked her, Hannah the gravedigger said she'd dig a grave for him anytime. The following day, Yuru spent his time minecrafting some arrows. Ken was impressed with his skills and knowledge, then asks him to teach him how to use a weapon. After looking into his eyes, Yuru agrees. Meanwhile, Makoto shows up for her first day of slave work. When she says good morning to Asa and Gabi, they greet her and the Daemons. Asa asks what their abilities are, and she explains they're good at kidnapping like the yin-yangs. That's why they were hired. Gabi asks how their abilities work. The raccoon dog's balls can stretch out and instantly kidnap someone. The yellow Pikachu can transform transform into people, making it good for honey traps. While she explains everything to Jin, the girls imagine the horror of being wrapped in a raccoon dog's load sack. She thanks Yin Yang for capturing her first before that disgusting rat. Ahsa immediately accuses Jin of hiring her to kidnap her brother. Instead, he called her over to help search for the non-existent West Gate. They walk to the west side of the property where she thought the gate was before. She recognizes the big rock and pear tree and wonders what happened. Gabby mentions Hikaru could rewrite reality, but his creations remain black and white for a while, so they'd know if it was him. Jin walks along the wall and notices a thin line. Seconds later, Asa finds another a few feet away, just wide enough to match a gate. Elsewhere, Asuma visits his ugly uncle Shingo. Shingo asks what happened after the incident. He reports the same. Asa stayed with the Kagamoris, and Yuru left with Tadera. Shingo is outraged and demands to know why he let the child of Seal get away. He tells him to stop wasting time and asks why he hasn't captured one of them yet. However, Asuma says Yuru and his daemons weren't to be underestimated, and he would have known if he was there. He orders him to get rid of the manga writer so he could become the next head of the family, but even if Hikaru croaked, Asuma doubts the current head would drop dead so easily. If he couldn't overpower them, he should win over Asa since she was naive, but Asuma says that was illegal and he wasn't actually a diddler. When Shingo says he was as useless as his mother, Asuma turns into a killer and announces he's leaving. As he walks out, he leaves a spy behind. After he leaves, Ivan, the wannabe Zoro, steps out of the closet and slices the butterfly in half, saying he had to train his nephew better. Meanwhile, Hannah asks if it was really okay to keep the child, but Dara reassures her he's responsible. Ken was smart enough to figure out what he wanted, and Dara thinks he's a good kid. Hannah pulls up the municipal missing persons site and searches for Yuru's mother. Yuru overhears and comes in. He tells them Asa said she was from Okinawa. Hannah realizes Kinjo is a common last name there. They say she was going back to visit her parents, meaning his grandparents lived there. Back in Tokyo, Asuma informs Jin he put a tail on Dara. Jin is furious since they were supposed to be earning Yuru's trust. Two of his subordinates died in the lost house again. Jin asks if they got lost again, but apparently they were murdered. A 19-year-old and a 40-year-old. Both single men with no friends or family. He'll leave them officially alive so they can use their identities. Suddenly, Jin receives a call from Gabby saying Asa got a call from her grandmother in Okinawa. Asa tells her she's doing well but apologizes since she still didn't know where her father and mother were. She says she's getting old and asks Asa to visit while she's still around. Asa apologizes and says she can't yet because she'd only cause trouble. She promises to call again and hangs up. Asa tells everyone she's exactly the same. She repeats every word and phrase the same way in every call. Yuru suggests asking his grandparents about his parents, but visiting would only drag them into unnecessary danger. They had ties to the Kagamori, so if they hadn't taken them in, they were probably already dead. After their discussion, Dara follows their only lead to his father and visits a bummy shaman in a shady part of town. Yama asks how his visit to the village went, but Dara tells him Azami was turning 7 and needed her vaccines. He also tells him that the Kagamori attacked the village and wiped out half the population. Yama wonders why he started with the vaccines and thought that was more important, but he says the main dish comes after the appetizers. Ahsa invaded with them and used Break to open the barrier. He asks if they took Yuru, but Dara was ordered to grab him and run from Granny Yamaha. Yama thought Break and Seal were just legends and was horrified. Dara asks if he's heard from his father, but like him, he hasn't. Yama offers to ask his Higashi village contacts but wants to know where Yuru is hiding. When Dara refuses to answer, Yama thinks he'll be safe as long as he's with him. Dara disagrees. He relays Yuru's message, welcoming and declaring war on anyone after him, including the village. He'd slaughter them all and torture the last one standing for information. Since he was busy babysitting, he asks Yama to deliver the vaccines instead. Suddenly, Yama warns him a freak approached him in the streets. He had 2 katanas like a fake Zoro, but he was sure they were Daemon. He instantly closed the distance. When Yama woke up, he was unharmed and assumed it was just a diddler trying to diddle. Afterward, Dara tells him to be careful, let him know if he hears anything useful, and not let anyone follow him into the village. When he arrives, the kids explain the horror they witnessed. After treating Azami and the rest of the peasants, they think they should have acquired Seal from Yuru sooner. Instead, 5 pathetic bandits were sent after him as a child, and he murdered them all in cold blood. None of them could touch him. When he says they need to take a hostage, a man agrees, and he is suddenly impaled through the fat stomach. Ivan slices him in half, climbs out, and greets the Higashi peasants. Yama calls him the perv prowling through the night, but Ivan notices they couldn't see his daemons and proceeds to cut them all down without mercy. If you made it this far, subscribe for more recaps like this, and look out for part 2 of Daemons of the Shadow Realm.